The American Revolution, the colonists' fight for unification and sovereignty. Let's start with salutary neglect. Salutary neglect involved Great Britain leaving the colonies alone as long as they were making money. The colonists loved governing themselves, so when salutary neglect ended in 1763, they weren't very pleased. One of the causes of the ending was the Proclamation of 1763, which said that colonists could not go past the Appalachian Mountains. The colonies were now only allowed to trade with Great Britain, and smuggling was drastically hindered. You also have the writs of assistance, which were passed in 1760 and violated the colonists' natural rights of life, liberty, and property. British customs officers now had the right to board and search colonial trade ships whenever they felt like it. The writs and the authority of the officers enforcing them were challenged by James Otis, a Boston lawyer, in 1761. Though Parliament ignored him, the colonists listened and began to question British authority. In 1765, the Stamp Act was enacted. This is the most important event leading to the American Revolution because the reaction to the act was known throughout all the colonies. All paper had to have a stamp on it showing that it had been paid for, and all the money that was made from these stamps went to British soldiers staying in the colonies. If you didn't obey the laws, you could be stripped of your right to a trial by jury and have to face a British judge in an admiralty court. The colonists were not too happy, and fear of rebellion led to the act being repealed in 1766, but only after the Stamp Act Congress. 27 delegates from 9 colonies came together in New York in 1765 at the Stamp Act Congress. These elected representatives demanded the act be repealed, only to be ignored by King George III. They didn't stop there, though. The delegates had other issues with the British government, so they wrote the Declaration of Rights and Grievances. Since the representatives of the Stamp Act Congress had problems beyond the Stamp Act itself, they wrote the Declaration of Rights and Grievances in 1765. This was the first discussion about the Bill of Rights in America. It proclaimed that taxes imposed on colonists without their consent were unconstitutional. It also said that colonists possessed all the same rights as Englishmen. These included trial by jury, right to assemble, and no taxation without representation.
An important person during this time was Sam Adams. He argued for actual representation, in which the colonists wanted to represent themselves separately from England. As the leader of the Sons of Liberty, a rebellious group out of Boston, he became notorious for attacking stamp agents who stamped the documents that needed to be taxed. The Sons of Liberty also poured hot tar and threw feathers on British supporters as an act of protest. In 1766, the Stamp Act was repealed because the Crown feared a civil rebellion in the colonies. It was replaced with the Declaratory Act as a way to save face. This just said that the British could tax in the future. Another supporter of actual representation was Patrick Henry, a member of the Virginia House of Burgesses. He protested admiralty courts, British courts with no jury, so the judge had the final say, as well as sugar and stamp acts. His acts were considered treason because he tells the colonies they should rebel against the British. Henry also says there are 2 types of taxes, internal and external. Internal taxes included lower taxed items made in the colonies, and external taxes included higher taxed items brought into the colonies.
Charles Townshend. He came to rule in 1767 after Lord Rockingham. He was a ruler that wanted to punish the colonies, so he created the Townshend Act. Townshend Act of 1767 put taxes on glass, paint, lead, and silk. These were all external taxes. This angered the colonists because all the tax money was going towards paying the royal governor's salary. The Townshend Act also brought the writs of assistance back and added the searching of homes and businesses. The Townshend Act led to the Letters of Farmers in Pennsylvania. Letters of Farmers in Pennsylvania was from 1767 to 1768. They were written by John Dixon, and the purpose of them was to question why the Crown was all of a sudden bringing all these taxes on the colonists. They also said that the Crown shouldn't tax only for revenue. This led to the Massachusetts Circular Letters in February 1768. These letters were written by Sam Adams to the Massachusetts legislation, urging them to get rid of the Townshend Act. Because of these letters, British Crown threatened to punish the Massachusetts legislation if they published the letters any further. This led the colonies to boycotting the British goods and made the British exports go down by 40%. All colonies stopped the boycotting except Maryland, Virginia, Delaware, and South Carolina.
In November 1772, Sam Adams had an idea. He interchanged letters from Britain with his own letters to promote independence in the colonies. His letters discussed problems they had with Britain and how they could confront them. They were sent to towns throughout the colonies, and even after the king banned them, the letters continued to be sent to advocate separation from Britain.
The Coercive Acts were passed in 1774. They were created to punish the colonists for the Boston Tea Party. The colonists called these acts the Intolerable Acts because they thought they were completely unfair. The Intolerable Acts included the Boston Port Act, which closed the port in Boston, Massachusetts, the Massachusetts Government Act, an act to better the government for British benefit, and the Administration of Justice Act, which punished anyone who was accused of rebellion. This caused the leaders of the colonies to gather and form the First Continental Congress on September 5, 1774. The Olive Branch Petition was a document written by John Dickinson and was approved by the Second Continental Congress on July 5th. It was sent to King George on July 8, 1775. It said the colonists would remain loyal to the crown if they had equal rights. The king refused to read it and declared that the colonists were rebelling. Common Sense was a pamphlet written by Thomas Paine that argued for American independence. It showed the colonists the advantages of independence from Britain. It was published right before the American Revolution and quickly became very popular. He wrote in a way that people could understand, and it helped gain many more followers for American independence. The Declaration of Independence was published July 4th, 1776, during the American Revolution. It stated that they were now 13 sovereign states and no longer under British rule. It was signed by many important historical figures such as Ben Franklin, John and Samuel Adams, John Hancock, and Thomas Jefferson.